Welcome to another fantastic and exciting episode of Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod McCall.
And I'm Bryce Runge.
You know, Bryce, it's good to see you today.
It's very good to see you too, Rod.
Well, it's been kind of crazy. School's back in session. And anyway, it's kind of hectic trying to get everything all squared away and all that. But,
yeah, it's been a little wild lately.
Well, with parents sending kids and kids going back, it's a little exciting. And I don't have as much time to read as I used to now that summer is over. But I did run across an article, and it got me thinking. It's from Parents Magazine. Well, actually, it was parents.com. It's their web
version.
Yes, thank you very much. And it was talking about birth order. And in fact, the title of the order was Birth Order, How Does It Affect Your Personality? And it's from a year ago. It was from July of 2020. But it got me thinking, do you think that your birth order, being the youngest, has had much, if any, impact on shaping who you are?
Yes. The short version of that, yes, absolutely. But that is an interesting topic. But I do agree. Yes, I think that me being the baby has shaped a lot of things in my life.
Okay. Because I wasn't too sure. I honestly was not. It intrigued me.
Mm-hmm.
I have three sisters, two older, one younger, so that makes me a middle child. But I'm the only boy. And so I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It got me interested, and as I read the article, it brought up some interesting points, and I thought, well, maybe that was something that we could talk about today. And are you okay with that?
I think I'm. Hey, this is your world. I'm just living in it. Okay,
well,
I'm just a
that.
little sidekick over here.
Oh, gotcha. Well, remember that come my birthday.
You're Batman. I'm Robin. And by the way, what are you going to be, 58 this 22nd?
Oh, whatever. Whatever. Oh, I tell you. Definitely a youngest baby child.
Yes, I think this is a great topic to have a conversation on. Absolutely. So let's dive into it.
All right. Well, one of the things that the article talks about, it lists some characteristic traits of an oldest child. And some of that include that they are reliable, that they are conscientious, that they're structured in what they do, but yet cautious in what they do at the same time. They can be very controlling, and they tend to be high achievers, even bordering on overachieving. And when I was thinking of my oldest sister, I don't know if she wants me to say her name, but I'll hold off on it.
Yeah, hold off on the name.
Okay. But I, as I was reading those traits, it made me think, that kind of was her growing up. I don't know how much of it plays as an adult, but definitely I remember growing up how, that she kind of was. And then I started thinking about some of my students that they're the oldest. And I start thinking back about, well, how were they? And some of them really were overachieving, but they were also cautious. They were very structured and very organized. I saw that when I was teaching my advanced placement classes.
Okay.
So, I don't know. Does that kind of fit your brother?
Yeah, so I know early on when we introduced each other, you had mentioned, my brothers. I have three older brothers. My oldest brother, Brian. I don't care if I say his name. He lives in California. What is he going to do? Come out here? I'll beat him up anyways. I'm the biggest. I'm the baby, but I am the biggest.
All right.
Anyways, yes, there are certain things that, I could pinpoint these personality traits or these traits. But, with him, there was such a gap between the two of us. 11 years. So there's 11-year gap. And by the time he was out of high school, out of high school and then moving out of the house, I was, how old am I? I don't even know. Can't do the math, but I'm just now being in a place where I could identify certain things. Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
With him, unfortunately, I saw a little more of the wow. This is not how this should be. Shouldn't be happening right now within our family dynamic. But and I'm not throwing stones at him. I love him. He's a good older brother. But yeah, I do. I'm going to cut this off and say yes. I do see some of those similarities with him.
Well, one of the things that the article addressed was the idea that when you're the first child, mom and dad are extremely nervous, that they don't have any experience having children, so they're very by the book, that they'll almost go to the point of overkill on what they do with the child. In fact, the article actually comments about this, saying that there's parents use a lot of instinct, a lot of trial by error kind of thing, and that leads to the kid being the oldest anyway, proving to be a perfectionist, which kind of goes into that overachieving mindset. And I thought that was really kind of interesting. And I mean, I don't know. It was very insightful for me as I'm thinking about my oldest sister. When I think about the oldest of my, students that are the oldest in their family, they do fit some of this. Not entirely all of them, but again, I thought it was kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, and as a father, as you're saying those things, I could see that within Braddock's, my son.
Okay.
Being the firstborn.
Mm-hmm.
I was overly cautious, right? We didn't know what really we were doing. We had instincts, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember like being like up most of the night and like always going into his room, like checking on him in the crib, like just constantly looking at him. And I don't know if that necessarily lines up with that worry. But yeah, I see that with him, and I see the things that he does and the things that he says, almost like I don't want to screw this up, or I kind of like I don't want to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Where we work through those, where we're working through those. It's okay to fail. We've talked about that on this episode. Hey, failing is a part of life, and it's okay.
Yeah.
But I do see that with him being the firstborn.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, in the article, they interview this guy from Temple University, this guy by the name of Dr. Frank Farley. And he says that many parents spend more time reading and explaining things to firstborns that as other children come into the family, they don't have the time to do. And they don't. So as a consequence, they're saying that this undivided attention that the firstborn gets contributes then to their behavior, to their characteristic traits.
Okay.
But they said that being a first isn't all sunshine and daffodils.
Yeah.
And I kind of think of, again, my sister. I don't know how much about Brian. I think about my students, but there's an intense fear of failure, that they are afraid to try. That while they may have a really high IQ because they are striving to be so good, the counter to that is that there's a lot of fear.
Okay.
And that fear of failure seems to grow. And again, I've seen that in some of the kids, especially when I was teaching the AP classes, that they were really, they wanted to be perfect. And that if they were anything just short of perfect, it was meltdown time.
Right, the sky is falling.
Yeah, and it took me a long time probably till just now, to really understand that, wow, okay, they were firstborn, and I wasn't thinking about how their birth order affected how they thought or acted.
Yeah, and as you bring this to the podcast today, I'm sitting like spinning my wheels too as I reflect on the students that I've taught, and like this is a great piece of advice, or I don't know what you would call it. Can't even think.
Maybe awareness.
Yeah, just something to make people aware. I know for you and I, as an educator, that would be huge. Like it's like the colors, like blue, red, green, yellow. But with our kids, like help identify. Oh, like do you do a survey? Like what birth order are you? Well, like, you're the firstborn, so I have some sort of an idea, right? So I can connect with you a little bit better because I have a better understanding. But anyways.
Well, it's just kind of interesting. I mean, my sister was, I remember my oldest sister, we'll call her Teresa. When she listens, okay, you're called out. But she was bossy.
Really?
Okay, I know this is going to come as a shock to you, but in summertime, we would play school. I know, crazy, shock and awe. Who the heck wants to do school in the summertime? But we did. And the neighbor kids, and we'd draw classrooms in the garage with chalk and all that kind of stuff. And my sister Teresa would always be the teacher, and she would always be the boss, and well, I'm going to tell you what to do, and so but I get that now, and I better understand that that was common, or is common. I mean, is Brian pretty much a bossy person?
From what I know, yes. And I think there was a little bit more to that too. Whenever he had to watch the other the three younger brothers, yeah, he was pretty bossy. He liked to beat up on us, and and I didn't ever want to stay home with him. So I was like, he's so mean, he's so bossy. Sorry, Brian. I'm airing your dirty laundry. But again, I love you, dude. This is what forgiveness is all about.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, I do recognize that. Oh, man, he's pretty damn bossy. Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, my sisters used to torture me. I mean, they would pin me down, sit on my waist, or sit on my legs and put my hands over my head. And then they would, and spit in my face. And I mean, once they tied me to a tree in the front yard. I mean, when you're 5 and 6 and 7, it is chaotic, and it's kind of like, man, I'm being abused. And
this explains quite a bit.
But it's, like you, I don't hold ill will against my sisters because, truth be told, my baby sister will say that I did the same thing to her, retribution and all.
Yeah.
But again, I better understand my sisters, and I better understand my students, having read the article and thinking about, and as we talk about this coming, kind of airing it, and we're as we discuss it, I'm processing it, and it's helping me draw connections, and it makes me wonder, okay, well, if it helps me understand my sisters, does that help us as parents to understand our kids a little bit better?
Oh, yeah.
That, I mean, I don't know, we always know that what we do with our kids impacts and influences them, but at the same time, do we understand how and how much?
Well, just as you've been sitting here unpacking this article and the birth order, just like you said, like, wow, this is great insight. Not only as an educator, but now I have 3 kids. For a while, it was I don't know how that happened. It was Braddock's for quite a while, and I could identify with the firstborn. And now there's 3 kids, and so I think this is going to be super insightful, and it's going to help me as I'm raising them.
And I guess that's kind of maybe the point of this. If there's any point at all,
I would say, yeah, that would be the point.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna move forward. I want to talk about the middle kid because that's what I am.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I'm the second middle kid, so
you're a middle. You share the middle child syndrome.
I do not have middle child syndrome. No, don't buy that.
Don't buy that at all.
All right. Well, so I was thinking of myself as I was rephrase that. I came out maybe wrong. Anyway, as I was reading the characteristic traits that the article identified that were common to middle children, it made me reflect on how they related to me. They said that middle kids tend to be people pleasers. They tend to be somewhat rebellious. They thrive on friendships, have large social circles, and tend to be peacemakers.
Okay.
Do you think that kind of relates to me at all? Maybe to Brad? Brad's a middle child.
He is.
And I know that he's a little rebellious.
Well, I was going to say I'm thinking both Brett and Brad because they're, I guess, like you, there's 4 total.
Yeah.
So they're right smack dab in the middle, right? But yeah, I could see both of them being a little bit rebellious. Both of them, well, I won't say that on air. You mentioned like the large circle, social group or social circle. Yeah. Brad has a group of friends. He's, I wouldn't say a peacemaker, but most of what you mentioned is, I could identify that with them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a better relationship with them because I'm a little bit closer in age. But yeah, absolutely.
Well, I got thinking about my other middle sibling, and we're both people pleasers. We want to make people happy. Somewhat rebellious. She was way more rebellious than me. Under rebellious in the dictionary it said, see her. Whereas me, I was a little more subdued, but I think that was mostly because I was afraid. I was afraid of a lot of things. But we both thrive on friendships. And I am blessed to have some very close relationships with you, with friends that I grew up with, friends from, crying out loud, going back to age 5. And we're, I depend on them. Mm-hmm. And I have a large social circle. And in fact, both of us have strong, large social circles. And I thought that kind of fit.
Yeah. I could see that.
Now, the article did go on, and it made some interesting observations. It says that, or they were saying that, middle children tend to be left out because they're not the oldest and they're not the baby. So what are they? And they kind of struggle to find their footing. Okay. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I was the youngest for 7 years, but I'm also the only boy. So I don't know how much of that plays into various things. But it was, so I don't know if I ever felt like I was left out of the family dynamic, especially once my baby sister was born, because again, it's a girl. Yeah. And it's kind of like, well, I'm not having to share anything. I don't have to share a room. I don't have to share clothes. Thank God. And
except for when they pinned you down and dressed you up like a girl.
Well, yeah. And then they made me marry the girl next door. Again, when you're 6 years old, that really stinks. But, I got payback later. As they started having kids, I bought loud noise-making toys for birthday and Christmas.
Love those opportunities.
Oh, and especially those that didn't have batteries in it. Oh, yeah. Trust me, I got my revenge. As they say in the movie Gladiator, I will get my revenge in this life and in the next. Or maybe I just adapted that. But anyway, as I'm reading that, it was kind of... I thought that was interesting, and it might explain why some of my students who are middle kids, why they're a little kind of way they are. Again, people pleasers, a little outgoing, kind of hard to. Okay, what's that? I saw a meme for teachers that said, or a T-shirt, something anyway, that was saying, "Teacher, you can move me wherever you want, but I'm still going to talk to the people around me." And I'm going, well, that was a little bit me when I was, in school. Not so much in middle school or I got more so in high school, but I guess, kids really turn odd and unusual in middle school.
Yeah, right.
As you're trying to figure out who you are and all of that kind of stuff.
The awkward years.
Yeah. So anyway, but I don't know. What do you think? Do you believe that maybe middle children struggle to make their identity known?
Honestly, I have to just say I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Well,
I wish I had more to tell you on that one.
Well, again, it's the hierarchy, and they fall in the middle. And when you're in the middle, well, again, it's where are you going to land? Right. Your expectations of the oldest and the youngest are very easily defined.
Yeah.
Or I think more easily defined. And when you're a middle kid, well, you're not the oldest, you're not the youngest. So what are you? Well, I'm a middle kid.
Yeah.
What does that mean? And so maybe that leads to different attitudes and behaviors where, well, nobody's going to give a crap what I do anyway, so I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe that leads to more risky behavior.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm kind of fishing in the dark here.
When you say it that way, I could identify that with the two middle brothers, Brad and Brett.
Okay.
Exactly what you just said. A little more riskier behavior. Kind of like I'm in the middle. Like I'm struggling to figure out where I'm at or whatever. I'm just kind of do me, really.
Okay.
If I were to say anything like that on that would be it. Outside of that, I think I would say all over the place, but we were all over the damn place.
Well, okay. True. I guess medication's wearing off. Now, the article does make this statement that middleborns are go-with-the-flow types. Okay. That they're going to receive less attention, so they tend to actually form stronger bonds, potentially with non-family friends or non-family members, like friends. They're more likely to be the first to stay the night at somebody's house.
Okay.
To stay overnight at a friend's house, which I thought was kind of interesting because I remember staying the night at people's house when I was in, 4th grade, 5th grade.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool. It was a lot of fun. I don't know how old my sisters were when they started doing sleepovers with friends from school, but the article did say that there were some challenges to the kid, to being a middle kid. And I kind of relate a little to this, that you feel left out.
Okay.
It says that it's easy for them to feel left out and get lost in the shuffle. There were times where I sometimes felt that, you're not the oldest, so the expectations are reduced. You're not the baby, so you don't get the attention, maybe. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting. But it was, again, I
think my parents must have kept me in the dark. I know they put me in a closet several times. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not kidding. Why I say that is it's hard for me to reflect back on that. I know there's an age gap difference between my oldest brother and then with Brian. So 6 or 7 years between me and Brett. But I do recognize that what you just said. Kind of feeling left out. They're in the middle, and especially when I came around. It's the baby, right? I'm in the middle. Well, screw everyone else. I'm gonna do my own thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a little trailblazing on my own.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that brings us to the youngest. Now, tell me if any of these traits say Bryce Runge on them.
Okay.
Fun-loving. Uncomplicated. Manipulative. outgoing, attention-seeking, self-centered. Now, I'm going to go with all of the above, but you tell me.
Okay. So tell me again. Fun-loving.
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty fun-loving.
I think so.
I would. What was the other one? I'm complicated.
Uncomplicated.
Oh, uncomplicated. Yeah, I would
Uncomplicated.
say I'm not very. I'm not I'm
No.
pretty easy.
What you see is what you get.
Right.
Wild and crazy.
Okay. What was the other one? There was. I was a little offended by.
Okay. Attention seeker. I mean, think about it. You were a surfer. You were a professional rollerblader.
Yeah. I don't know if I was doing that because I was seeking attention, or maybe I was.
Well, that's where I started thinking about my own little sister.
Okay.
And I was thinking about, okay, looking at it from was some of the things that she did growing up, which I won't go into, other than that each one of us kids built on what the others had done. My oldest sister did some silly stuff. Mm-hmm. Then my other older sister, who's 2 years younger, she did a few more silly things. Mm-hmm. Then there's me and the parties that I had every time mom and dad were silly enough to leave me at home. And those got to be quite... Okay, so they're not Project X parties, where they're burning down the house. Oh, yeah. But we had some pretty wild and crazy adventures.
We had some fun.
Yeah. But then my little baby sister, who we get along amazing right now. I mean, we get along so much better as adults than we ever did as kids. There was a lot of animosity. And I think it was a lot from me. Jealousy, I think, might be a good... and I picked on her. Oh, my Lord. I hope that I am not judged by how I acted and treated her when I was older. Because I'm 7.5 years older than she is.
Okay.
And so I did. I felt that she was self-centered. And so I would treat her badly.
Okay.
So I will use this platform because I know she listens. Beth, I'm sorry. I was a jerk. Now, was she fun-loving? Like you, she's wild and crazy. But some of the stuff she did, she had some outlandish gatherings and parties that far exceeded what me and the other girls had done.
Okay.
Now, is she uncomplicated? Maybe. More or less.
Yeah.
I mean, she's pretty much a straight shooter. She says her mind.
Okay.
Kind of like you.
Yeah, for the most part.
I mean, now, outgoing. She's very outgoing. Oh, my Lord, I can remember growing up, there wasn't a stranger she wouldn't talk to. As soon as she knew how to speak, she was talking to everybody. I mean, everybody. Which, for a quiet, shy, nerdy kid like me, that was very scary.
Uncommon territory right there.
Yeah, amazing how much things have changed.
Oh, yeah.
Now, here's where maybe you might have... I mean, would you see yourself as self-centered?
No, I'm not self-centered.
But let's go back 20, 25, 30 years ago.
That's a long time, man.
When you were 10, when you were 12... Would you say that some of the things you did could they be considered more self-centered?
I
know I'm putting on the spot.
I plead the fifth. I think I have unfortunately suffered numerous concussions in skating and football. So I have. No, I don't. Honestly, I don't think so. Maybe there were times that I was. I honestly cannot recall ever being a self-centered individual.
All right.
Maybe moments.
Runge Brothers, please send us emails. Yeah. All right, Brad, you got my phone number. Call me.
Yeah, please do. Like, enlighten me.
All right. Well, one of the others is manipulative.
Okay.
would you say that you were manipulating of your parents in particular?
I would say that there were times that I probably tried to manipulate them. I was just maybe not a good manipulator.
Okay. Well, the reason why...
If that makes sense.
Well, that's good. I mean, because the reason why I think that's identified as a trait is that the article says that the last born or the baby of the family may not necessarily be the strongest or the smartest in the room, they say. So as a consequence, they develop their own ways to gain attention. Okay. I mean, they're the last one to do everything. They're the last one to walk. They're the last one to talk. They're the, everything that they go, oh, look at me. Look what I can do. And you're going, yep, brother did that earlier. Brother did that. Sorry, they beat you to the punch. In fact, they did it in half the time that you did. So what's going on? Why are you so slow in doing these things? Okay. And so I think that in order to stand out, they learn, and again, this is what the article is saying, that they learn how to be a little bit manipulative to gain the attention from parents in particular, but maybe from siblings as well, so that way they can receive affirmation that they are valuable, that they are clever. And as I start looking back on my little sister, I think that's exactly what was going on. My parents were much older. My dad was in his early 40s, maybe pushing 43, because he was 35 when I was born. Okay. And so he was, early 40s when he had, and I mean, crying out loud, she was just going into high school, into 9th grade when they retired. Wow. So they were much older. They were tired. My older sisters were very challenging to them. Me, I was a good kid. I was, the angel on earth.
Yeah, you were a sweet little angel, I bet.
Yeah. We'll leave that there. But as I look at this, I mean, I always felt like my little sister got everything she wanted. Things that we were told, oh, no, we can't have, or, well, we can't afford it. By the time she came around, Mom and Dad were much more financially set. And, I had two sisters pretty much, one out of the house and one getting ready to leave, because my oldest sister was 18, graduating college, graduating high school, a couple of months after my baby sister was born. Okay. And my other sister left 2 years after that. And so, therefore, it was... Again, they were different financially when she was born than when the rest of us were born, and so I don't know. It was kind of interesting as I read through that, and it got me thinking again about family dynamics.
Right. Well, and as you're sitting here, you're unpacking this, and I'm just like, I mentioned it in the introduction to my book about following my brother's leads. Those were the examples. Those were the examples that were set forth. And what's interesting, how that you mentioned your sister living it up a little bit more than everyone else, and how I can identify with that. That resonates with me too, because as I saw them, I wanted to be like them.
Okay.
I wanted to do the things that they were doing.
Gotcha.
And which in turn, I really neglected what I really wanted to do. Who's Bryce Runge? What do I want to do? Quit trying to be like them. But again, you pointed out about that standing out. Well, so yes, like you said, your sister lived it up a little bit more. Well, I guess I felt like I needed to go big. And so that's what I did.
Because you're seeking, you're trying to get that attention.
It makes total sense as you're reading this. I'm like, wow, okay, I get that. I understand that now. As the youngest and living the life that I did, going big like I did, I get it.
And in the article, they quote this Dr. Lehman, and he says that youngest are known for feeling that nothing I do is important because nothing I do seems original. And I again, I look back and I understand family dynamics a little bit better. And I think that it will help me, with my nieces and nephews.
Right.
And, instead of jumping to conclusions and prejudging their behaviors, I'm trying to be a little more cognizant of how that's working. Sherry's brother, him and his wife, they have 6 children. And when I think of their littlest, and she's going into 2nd grade, she's a lot of these behaviors. Because, by the time the last kid comes around, mom and dad are freaking tired.
Yeah.
They're a lot older than when they got started, and they're more wore out.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off, but
No, you're fine.
I'm already worn out.
Thank you.
Yeah. No disrespect to them or my wife, but yeah, we're tired. We're and the youngest is only 2 months old. So
Yeah.
maybe that's a different tired.
well, that's true, and you'll be over 60 by the time she graduates high school.
Yeah, she's gonna be like, "Oh, how sweet! You brought your grandfather to your graduation."
Yeah,
Jeez.
I tell you, I can't wait till she starts dating. She'll be having you're gonna have to put bars on the window, baby.
I'm gonna have to, because it's not like what I'm gonna do. I can't run anyone down. I'm so damn old. Hurt my back getting out of the chair.
Get one of those chairs that lift you up.
Oh my God.
So I don't know. It's really, again, I thoroughly enjoyed this article, as again it helped give me insight to how my family, how we grew up, but also in helping kind of understand some of the family dynamics of the students that I teach, and helping me hopefully be a little bit better. I really wish I had thought of this, looked at this a lot sooner in life, because I think I made, there's no thinking, I made a lot of bad decisions, jumping to conclusions and judging individuals, including my own siblings, very unfairly.
Yeah.
And it was wrong of me. But now that I see this, and again, I think that as we became adults, a lot of this disappeared. I do know that when we get together for our annual family Thanksgiving get-togethers, I think some of this comes back.
Oh, I
think
absolutely.
Okay, so that happens when you guys get together?
Oh yeah.
And it's weird how that happens, because we all fall into this I don't know, this weird dynamic.
Right.
And
you fall back into that childhood state.
Thank you. Yeah. And I mean, what's sad is that it sometimes leads to conflict and aggravation. We get together at my mom and dad's. We get there on Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. We pretty much all start parting ways by Saturday morning, early afternoon. Definitely by lunchtime. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
I love my sisters. I love my parents. I love my nieces and nephews. But I'm also ready to go.
Yeah.
Because I think it's time.
Yeah.
Because so I'm hoping that maybe I can use this information to better understand and respond and relate to them differently.
Right. Well, and I agree with that. I can say the same. I love each and every one of my family members. But like you said, there's that point where it's time to go. The thing that frustrates me is, and I know that Suzanne and I have had this conversation. Suzanne's the youngest as well. She's the only girl. So she was treated a little bit differently because she was the only girl, but also being the youngest. Whenever we get together, it's still this, I'm treated like the baby Bryce. Like I'm talked to that way. I'm talked to like certain siblings with those traits that you mentioned earlier, the bossiness or the controlling or whatever, right? And it's a little frustrating. Obviously, I go with it, and but it's this is good insight, like we've been mentioning. But it's frustrating to be with them, and still it's to them treat you that way. They're still reading the same story. It's the same story as your childhood. Instead of we're all mature adults at this point. Going back to you with the conflict, there's still that animosity. There's still some bad blood, quote unquote. If within my family dynamic, because there's still change the narrative. It's time to change the narrative. We're all adults. We have families. We've lived a lot of life, and we can have such a better relationship if we don't view each other as in the birth order, if you will. That's just my frustration with that, because there's still a lot of animosity. I rarely talk to Brett. I'll every once in a while talk to Brian. I talk to Brad the most, but that's kind of here and there now. I don't know. It's just a little frustrating.
It takes a lot of effort, but all right. I got one last thing for you.
Okay, what do you got?
Because I know we're running up against our time window, our self-imposed time window.
Yes, our self-imposed time window.
Only children.
Only child syndrome.
Only child. Now, the article doesn't go into great detail on this, but it gives some characteristic traits, and it made me think of Eric. Now, Eric was an only child. Okay. We only got almost 8 years with him, but mature for their age. Okay. I would say that a lot of only children were mature for their age. I think Eric was pretty mature for his age. Perfectionists. I think maybe. Now, for Eric, I don't think he was much of a perfectionist. Okay. Conscientious. Definitely, he was very conscientious. Diligent. Paying attention. And they tend to be leaders. Eric was a leader, according to his teachers and at school. Yeah. And I think about some of the kids in my classes that have been only children, and they fit a lot of these. But one of the things that's interesting about only children is they don't have to share. Right. They have more of the traits of the oldest than they do really of the middle or the baby. Well, definitely not the middle, but definitely of the baby. And so I thought that was very interesting. And
yeah, that is.
And I'd be curious, one of the things that they were saying was that they don't have to deal with siblings. They don't have to worry about sharing mom and dad, sharing mom and dad's affection, attention. Right. And so I don't know. I thoroughly enjoyed this article. Yeah. And I'm glad we took the time, or I appreciate you letting us take the time to talk about this and reflect on its influence on family dynamics, how we see, feel, and treat each other.
Yeah, no, and I think this is a great topic because, like you said, we just never knew, right? And we're learning now, but maybe there's a lot of younger couples out there, or well. I'm not younger, but I have little kids that could benefit from this. Being able to identify that birth order and those traits can help you create a more positive, I guess, if you will, family dynamic to really create that thriving family culture.
A different narrative in how you see their behavior, respond to their behavior, encourage or discourage certain activities or character traits.
Yeah, and it's as a parent, it's been hard to, I guess, spread the love, right? And that's something that I'm learning and trying to get better at. But this is a really powerful piece of advice, and I appreciate you bringing it to the podcast, because it's going to help me. I know that, and as I balance and learn to love them for who they are, and figure out who they are and all that good stuff, right? I think this will help me, because I've got an oldest, I've got a middle, smack dab in the middle. And she's our wild one. She's amazing. And then we got the newborn. And so,
Well, I will say that the newborn is truly self-centered.
She is so.
It's all about her.
It's all about her. I will say that because it was Braddock's and I for quite a while, he was the only child.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's helped him be the awesome brother that he is.
Okay.
We talk about like being mature for their age.
Mm-hmm.
He's very aware. He's gotten the leader award at school. He just got this huge heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it would have been different because if they were closer in age. But for a while, it was just he and I. So,
and he's very conscientious.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. And like I said, when I was reflecting on Eric, he was a lot of those things. Now, how much more he would have developed, I don't know, because he would have stayed an only child.
Mm-hmm.
He would have stayed an only child.
Right.
So,
okay.
Well, so that brings us back full circle to the very beginning. Do you think that birth order influences a person's personality?
I would definitely say yes. After you educating us on this, yes, I would say yes.
Okay, well, same here, because again, I came into this with questions and not a lot of preconceived notions. I mean, I felt like, well, it might, but now I go, oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It helps explain why I'm as crazy as I am.
Oh, needless to say.
We'll end there.
Yeah, we're going to end there. Hey, everybody, it has been awesome.
Thanks for spending some time with us or letting us entertain you. And until next time, this is Rod.
And I'm Bryce.
See ya.